So I know I sent you some materials ahead of time. I hope that you all received that. And the basic agenda that we're going to be going over today is like the nuts and bolts of planning a synod consultation. And then as we received your questions, a lot of you were really asking about, okay, how do I invite people to participate in this as leaders, like facilitators or note takers or in other roles, but also how do we get people to come to these synod consultations? How do we make a powerful invitation? So we're going to really be deep dive focusing on that today in different parts of the training to try and give you some practical tools around inviting your team, inviting leaders, and also around, you know, turning out folks to come to a synod consultation. So we will, if you, one particular worksheet that we are going to have you fill out today had to do the one with propositions. So hopefully you either have that one up on your computer or you printed it out, but that'll be later in the training. So you'll still have a chance to pull that one up when you need to. So with all of that said, I would like to go ahead and invite Carmen Villafañe, who just joined our team. She's going to lead us in a prayerful meditation on the image of the logo. So take it away, Carmen.
Thank you so much, Ellie, and welcome to everyone. So I was asked to lead you on a little bit of a visual meditation with this beautiful image in the call to synod. And we ask ourselves at the beginning as we settle and become present to our task today. What does this image convey as we journey together? Like Ellie said, we're called to take on the nuts and bolts and learn this learning curve that Synod has presented, animating synodal consultations. So let's take a few minutes to enter this spirit, the spirit of the Synod, through this very image before us, created to help guide our work. One of the big questions that's been coming up in our animator conversations is, how can we best explain this synodal process to others? Many of us are still practicing our pitch, working to find the right words to explain what the synod is all about, the synod of synodality. What else can we express to those we are calling? What is the mystic that threads through this moment we are called to be a part of as church, as faith community, as the people of God? As we observe this image together, let's ask the Spirit to center in us and open in us in unison to the possibilities that we're being invited to as we listen for the nudges and inspirations that arise in our prayer together. In this silent moment, I invite you to allow yourselves to simply gaze in a visio divina, divine seeing sense. Allow God to attune us in relationship with this image. If you'd like, if you have a piece of paper nearby, you can jot down words or phrases that come to mind as you walk through this experience. So I'm just going to ask a few questions and then continue in this vein of prayer and centering. What's the image of church you see here? What draws you in particular? What's the movement that you sense? What are the people up to in the image and on this call? What seems important? And what might Pope Francis highlight in the image before us? Notice the words communion, participation, mission. What do those mean to you? How can these words gain greater life and meaning in the call to be more of a synodal church? Where are you? Where am I in this image? Do I see myself there? And where are the people that we are inviting? Where can we invite them to? As we call on the Spirit to help lead this moment, let's keep in mind those who put this image together, the designers, the artists, who expressed their intentions describing the following. The multiplicity of bright colors represents diversity and are signs of joy. Diversity and joy. The colors, the differences in the people there, what envelops them, what envelops us. As we continue this prayerful process and enter today's work, I invite you to glance at this logo every few days or so, possibly keeping it in a handy place like on your screensaver or keeping it in your picture space. See what the Spirit leads you and I and us on this journey forward, stirring our imagination, our memory, our vision, and possibly notice something new along the way as we integrate this image and this mystic into our encounters. We pray together in spirit and joy. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Carmen. It's a beautiful image, and I just find myself, just deepening my engagement with that image as I put it in different Canvas slides or on documents or in different places. So I invite you all to also, do Visio Divina with this image every once in a while. It's very fruitful. So what we're going to do next is actually, it's a big part of what's so great about these gatherings is just getting to meet each other and to hear what's going on in different parts of the country, what you all are trying. So we're going to go into small breakout rooms in a minute. And I'm going to just suggest that you each take like 3 minutes each just to talk about a few questions. What's one thing that's going well for you as you organize synodal consultations? It's good to put our minds on something that's going well, something, what's one thing you've learned, you've enjoyed learning so far. So that'd be a great thing to share so that people know one another's strengths here, what we're learning. And then the other question is, what is one question that you hope to get some answers for today? And I know that we heard from a lot of you already, but it's good to get that clear in your mind as well as we continue on with the training. And so let's see here. Somebody put those questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Colleen. And you're welcome to everyone else here. If you go to the right-hand side and click on the dots, you could even copy those questions and take them with you. All right. So Carolina, if you would now put us into breakout groups, and we'll have about 15 minutes total. Okay, and you should be seeing now a box that is inviting you to join a room. If you could please join that room. Oh, good. Lori has joined us. Welcome, Lori. So good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. I'll chat with.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope that was interesting and good. Just good to connect with some people. I see it's a thumbs up. If anybody wanted to write anything in the chat, you're welcome to. I hope it was good to share what's going well, what you're learning, what your questions still are. So, and then I just ask everyone to mute as we begin this next part, but you're welcome to share anything in the chat if you'd like to. So we're going to jump in then now to the next part of our training, just some of the nuts and bolts of planning a synod consultation. And our overall goal for this next chunk of time is to put forth this idea that as organizers of synod consultations, you get to identify the key leaders that you want to be working with as you put together teams to organize these synod consultations, and to see yourself within the biggest vision possible, that the work is not just task-based, oh, I need to set up a meeting. What we're really doing here is training ourselves and training others how to be ambassadors for the synod, how to facilitate meaningful, engaging dialogue conversations. These are the folks on, your leadership team are going to be the folks on the ground who are really thinking over time, how do we contribute to the renewal of the church? So we're going to be talking about making these kinds of powerful invitations, and for you to have a chance to think about, who in your community are the folks most ready, most likely to be ambassadors for a synodal style of listening, for discerning leadership, people for whom discerning the voice of the Holy Spirit in groups is the kind of leader that they want to be. And then we are going to, just to remind you, we are going to, as we present this information, questions might come up for you. Just jot them down somewhere, because we will have a 15-minute period after Lisa presents and after I present to take your questions. So just jot them down as they come up for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa now. She's going to talk about invitation and turnout.
Hi, everybody. My name's Lisa Ammon. I'm on the staff of Discerning Deacons, and I've made myself available if you want to sign up for like a 30-minute troubleshooting sort of session with me individually. I have spots in a kind of a fancy way to do that, at least fancy to me. You can just schedule right into my Google Calendar, which is pretty awesome. And Ellie will give you the link to that later if it's of interest. But I have 10 minutes to tell you just some of the main things that have been working for me. So for the last few months, I've been working on a synodal consultation. And I had about 130 people signed up and registered. And so part of it is, the only reason I'm telling you is not to brag, but it's just to tell you, like, hey, that should credential me. And these are some of these tips that I've used. Also, I've organized a lot of things in the past. And so these are some of the sort of like the highlights, I would say. The first one, thank you for sharing the slide here. The first thing I want to focus on is how you are actually talking about what you're doing, your synod consultation that you are organizing. And I can't actually see the whole thing here, Ellie. I'm not sure if others can. I can only see like part of the screen here.
Yeah, Catalina, we're only seeing, oh, there we go.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. So, I mean, it seems obvious, but it's not. Don't wait until you're trying to figure out like a press release before you answer who, what, when, where, why. What is it that you're doing? And write it on one piece of paper. See what you can put down. It does not have to be perfect. And if it's not finalized, just write draft on the top of it. but just make yourself answer those who, what, when, where, why, and you will be on your way. As soon as you have something sketched out like that, you can invite people into it. So the other mistake that I've made before in the past is I tried to figure out, well, how am I going to do it? What is my agenda going to be? Who will be the presenters? Exactly how am I going to accomplish my Synod consultation? So I waited to invite people until I plotted the how I was going to pull it off. But I want to tell you that what I know from experience is you can invite people as soon as you know what you're inviting them to. And you can even invite them to save the date if you don't have your registration set up. The key to inviting people is inviting them as soon as you know what you're inviting them to. So you've got so you give yourself as much of a runway as possible. And when you get 30, 40 people signed up, it'll give you a little kick in the pants for getting that how and your program together for sure. If you're like me. So, and it's exciting. It creates excitement, when people start to say, yeah, I want to do this. So promote as soon as you can, answer this question at a high level. Secondly, send a save the date as soon as you can to get the word out. And then get there's a concrete piece of getting your registration set up. As soon as you get your registration set up, you just turn around and send that out and say, register today, and send it to the same people that you sent the save the date to. So it gives you another reason, another sort of, excuse, if you will, to to email or call or text the same set of people. The other thing I would say about how you describe your Synod consultation is do not bury the most exciting lead. This was my husband's advice to me. Like I wrote paragraphs about what this thing was going to be and where and whatever. But the most exciting thing, just feel it right now in your soul. The Pope and the bishops have asked the people of God to consult them. That is the headline, period. No one's ever been consulted on this phone call by the Pope, to my knowledge. No one you're inviting to your consultation has been consulted by the Pope or their local bishop, probably, right? So we've got this like sort of miraculous window of time till May 15th. And that is, do not bury that lead. Like that, just say it clearly and say, that's what I want to invite you to participate in with me. So I'm not sure. My invitation to one set of people at the earliest phase was the Pope is consulting us and I'm going to figure out how to participate. And I'm going to be consulted. And I'd like to invite you to do that with me. That was it. That was my initial invitation, right? You can tell people what's happening before you've got everything perfectly checked off on your list. And it's key to start talking about it. Okay, don't bury the lead that this is it's the biggest consultation in history. Here, wait, I'll read you Bishop Caggiano's from Connecticut. This is the largest attempt at human consultation in the history of the world. Okay, don't bury the lead. Okay, now consider, I have a sample invitation. So it's a tool. It's in your inbox, wherever you got the Zoom. So you can look at what I did. But just the other thing I would say is the thing that gets people to is not what you're doing. It's not like, hey, I'm going to describe this amazing experience you're going to have at my consultation. Part of what gets them there is you modeling your hope, your commitment. So you put in your invitation 1 or 2 I statements. I am excited because, I am committed because. And the people that know you are going to care more about what you think about it than what Lisa Ammon or Ellie Doggo or Bishop Caggiano thinks about it. They care what you have to say. Okay, next slide, please. Here's another kind of trick. The key to successful invitations is who is making the invitation. So I just said that to you. The people who you're going to invite, they care that Lisa Ammon is inviting them if I'm inviting them, that Suzanne is inviting them, Carmen's inviting them, right? But here's like, who do you get to help? So in every one, there's got to be a spiritual grounding. Do you know somebody who can lead a spiritual reflection? Great. You might know 10 people. Who's the one who has the biggest network of people? Because as soon as they get excited and start putting their mind to it, Sister Carolyn Puccio is doing at the consultation I'm organizing, she's going to do the theological grounding. She knows everybody, right? I hope she'll be good enough at it, but she knows everybody. And that's why I asked her to do it. Okay. And people love her. She's got credibility. So you think smartly about who you invite to take any role. And then the other thing is, once you invite people to take a role, you say, my invitation is, I really need somebody to help me ground this in prayer for this historic consultation by the Pope and the bishops. But also anybody who's involved, I really am asking that you help me promote this and invite your personal network. Make sense? Okay, invite institutional co-sponsors. So sometimes, like Discerning Deacons didn't exist 1 year ago. So I was like, all right, nobody knows who Discerning Deacons is except for this group. So I went to the College of St. Catherine, actually St. Catherine's University, excuse me. I do not mean to demote them, and asked somebody there. I just said, hey, I want to do this thing. I'm really jazzed up. I'm going to do a lot of work. Would you co-sponsor it? And they said yes. I was shocked. I didn't know them. I've never done anything with them before. They said yes, because of course they want to be part of it. They're a Catholic institution filled with women, and the Pope is consulting people, and I didn't bury the lead. Okay. And I said, I'll do a lot of work, right? So who else can co-host? Do you have a commission on women? Do you have anybody? Are there parishes? Anybody that can be a co-sponsor? See if you can get their name on it. That helps to kind of attract people. Also, institutions tend to have lists, so you can ask them later, hey, is there anybody you could shoot this out to from your institution, right? Invite individuals to be co-hosts. So it doesn't have to be an institution. You know, you probably know somebody who knows a lot of people, because God made certain people who have bigger Rolodexes in their brain than others. And so I think if you know any of those people, you just invite them to get involved. Will you be a co-host with me? You don't have to lead the theological reflection. You're just going to be a co-host and help me get the word out, because this is history-making moment in the church, and we're not going to miss this window of opportunity. Thanks. Okay. Invite presenters on your agenda. Okay, I already went over that. Oh, the inviting is all hands on deck. Anybody invited to do anything in any way, you just always make sure you ask them, hey, is there anybody that you know? It doesn't have to be 20 people, maybe like 5 to 10 people that you know who you think might be interested, that know you. Would you please invite your personal network? Not give me their email addresses. They don't know Lisa Ammon, but they know you. Would you please do that? And you make it easy for people. You send them your sample invitation, say, yeah, feel free to rip this off and use whatever you want. Okay, that's it. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. This is just some logistics that actually, like, if you do something to make it simple, I just mentioned this one, draft and share your invitation email. I'm going to do that. It's already shared with you, but whatever you write, whoever you're asking to make the invitation, if you've got it all scripted and ready to go, and all they have to do is change the name at the bottom or maybe a couple of sentences, it actually empowers people to do something, and it takes some of the steps of their commitment out, and it makes it easier for them to do. So I would definitely do that. It can help to create a flyer. The thing is you really need at this day and age a really clear mechanism for registration and tracking registrants, so that you can communicate reminders, logistics, things like that. And you're not just going, oh, I hope they'll show up. If you have a clear way to set up registration, that's awesome. That's one of the things Discerning Deacons is offering. Actually, maybe we'll just look at that. Next slide. So if you want, I got Discerning Deacons to do mine. And what we can do is we'll put it on we'll host the registration on the web page so that there's like a link on our web page to your consultation, if that would be if that's something that would be helpful for you. And then what you're able to do is email this direct link to your event description and registration right to people in their email so that they can go there and sign up. And then Carolina from Discerning Deacons would send you updated sort of spreadsheets. They look kind of like Excel spreadsheets of whatever people fill in their registration so that you can kind of track as it goes, maybe each week to week, if your registrations are going up, et cetera. Let's see. Also, another option on ours that I really am excited about is I just scripted an automatic confirmation. So anytime anybody signs up, they get an automatic email after they register. Maybe it would help to actually show people. Do we have time to do that, Ellie?
I think so. Is
Okay.
it possible, Carolina, to just link?
I'm going to show you mine, and my is a thematic forum. It's inside of the synod, so it's not a general synodal conference. It's more focused on deacons, and so don't let that confuse you. We had in our archdiocese here, we had a huge, robust sort of open synodal consultation, and so I wanted to make sure that that there was some discernment on whether or not deacons could help us. Okay, what's happening here?
I shared it in the chat. So that's one place where people could open it if they wanted to see it.
Or yeah, it's okay. You can see mine. One of the things I put on there is a picture. Discerning Deacons gave Pope Francis some art of St. Phoebe. And boy, like that's an exciting picture. But anything more than words, it could be really any picture or the logo or anything. Just you could include a picture on there too. We can look. Okay, here we go.
Great.
Yep, there's mine. And what's cool about it is right on the registration is all the information. It's sort of like an electronic flyer. And if you scroll down, it captures all the basic information. But if you'll see, I actually put some demographic information in there too, like what's your relationship with the church, things like that, things that I knew that would be helpful to put into a report for our local archbishop after we collect all of the consultation. Then I just had people do that right with registration so that I'd have that information. Okay, I think my minutes are up. Over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Sure.
I hope that you all are finding these to be very helpful suggestions for how Lisa has been able to organize very well attended synod consultations. And so I'm now looking at the document that I sent you all, Elements of a Synod Consultation, and I'm going to just review some of the highlights, some of the things that I think might be helpful to say a little bit more about. And then at the top of the hour at 1 o'clock, we'll take your questions and then we can go over some other things if there are particular things you want me to focus on. But one of the things based on what Lisa just said is, as you identify particularly small group facilitators and note takers, I think that's another group to really see as leaders because it's an important role you want them to learn. And if it goes well, if they have a good experience, they're going to want to keep doing more. That has been my experience. And because they're getting to do something very meaningful for our church, as Lisa has pointed out, they're getting to help people consult Pope Francis about things that really matter. But an important thing to also plan as you're planning out your meeting is to do a separate training with facilitators and note takers, because that will help a lot to give you the opportunity to really help shape and form their own leadership, for them to ask questions, for them to see themselves as playing an important role in the consultation, for you to invest a little bit in their own leadership. And so that's an important thing to do. And in our resource hub that we've sent you before, Jesuit Spiritual Conversations has put out handouts, very specific handouts on training facilitators and note takers, as have some of the other dioceses. So there's resources for that, and we can share those with you if you're needing to find those. But I think that's a really important piece. And one of the experiences I'll give for you, as I recently attended a synod consultation here in Miami, there was about 45 people. The small group facilitator did a great job. She had been trained beforehand. And after the meeting, that group was so excited about how well things went that they were like, when can we do this again? And so now they're actually organizing another synod consultation for young adults, which is a much more challenging group to reach out to. But having had the first positive experience, they felt like they were ready to stretch and do something even more challenging. So that's the one we're organizing now. The other thing I wanted to point out is in designing the agenda, we gave you some basics of the different things that should be part of the agenda. I think it's important to leave 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning to even talk about the synod consultation process. What is this? Why is this historic? Why does it matter? I have been to a few meetings in my diocese where they didn't talk about that, and it wasn't sure that people really understand the importance of it. And I think it's helpful if at the beginning, even just a few minutes, you have somebody present on the historic nature of this and why their contribution is important. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and Joyce Cottage, who's here with us today, she put together a resource that Leadership Roundtable has also been promoting, but she put it on one page, which is the difference between dialogue, discussion, debate, and diatribe. And I have found this really helpful to share with people because so often, I realize even now in my own personal life, that so often conversations end up being debate, people trying to persuade their point of view. And what Pope Francis is inviting us to is really quite different. It's dialogue that's based on listening to one another's experiences, holding people's experiences with respect. There's no need to debate somebody's experience. And then being able to move towards discernment, like where is the Holy Spirit? What is the Holy Spirit inviting us to do next as we hear one another's experience with empathy and compassion? So I think that's, I shared that when we sent out the materials this morning, and have been able to use it really well. So I kind of wanted to just point that one out. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is reporting back. So if you're reporting back to your diocese, they're going to have a report back form that you can have. But you are also welcome to report back to Discerning Deacons. And I will ask you to be a little bit discerning about, well, what should I report back to Discerning Deacons? So if everyone at your parish is wishing that music ministry was better, that's not a thing to report to Discerning Deacons, the real local kinds of things that people might be talking about. But in particularly, if people are talking about ministry roles, like who gets to be in ministry roles in our parish or in our diocese, the hopes and dreams that people might have for the church that's going to have to get worked out by the universal church. In other words, for example, women deacons is not going to be something that your bishop can make happen. But if that's something that is coming up, or other issues around divorce and remarriage, different kinds of things that would have to be worked out by the universal church, that would be a good thing to report to us. Any key themes that are really coming up for people. And particularly the essential question, which is, are folks starting to discern what is the Holy Spirit's invitation for what is a key thing that we could do to journey better together as the people of God? So that's something that that's important for us to be listening to. And for us, it would be really helpful if you can report back within 24 hours while it's still fresh in your mind. And the last day for us to receive report backs is May 15th. And then one of the things I sent out this morning is, if you look at our report back form, you can't actually go through and see the questions because you have to fill it out to see the next question. So I went ahead and printed and made a document with the questions so that you can see what are the questions that are going to be asked. And it's okay if you didn't ask all of that demographic information, but I just want to give you ahead of time what will be the questions. If you don't have some of those answers, you can just write, not applicable, I don't have it. The other thing that I did want to mention is that, one of the things that we are starting to hear is some people are saying, well, I went to the Synod consultation and people were sharing, but and the notes kind of went into the ether, what's going to happen with these notes? And one of the things that you might consider, especially if you're organizing a synodal consultation, is might you consider doing a post-meeting gathering with your notes, with your facilitators and your note takers, to do some discernment together about what were the priorities that were really being shared? Could you consider maybe writing a 2-page synthesis report and then sending it back to the people who participated in your synod consultation? It would just be one way for us to keep learning communal discernment practices and for us to model accountability and co-responsibility. So we're trying to pioneer some things here. The bishops and the diocese may not do that, or the parishes might not do that, send people back a synthesis of here's what we heard. But what might it look like if we were doing that? And if we were kind of pioneering that level of communal discernment, accountability, and co-responsibility. So I just wanted to offer that up. And I think that's actually about all that I wanted to share right now. So I think we are right on time. We're actually a few minutes early. I think we can open it up for questions. And Lisa and I will try and answer your questions as best we can. So if people want to either raise their hand or unmute or put it in the chat, love to take a question. Okay, Suzanne. If you could unmute, Suzanne.
Sorry about that. So we are using a format similar to the spiritual conversations. We found that really helpful because it does do a discernment process. And so some of the weeding of issues is done by the group and not by the note taker. So if there are materials related to that process, if you could link those for us so we can get them quick and easy, that would be awesome, because we are talking about training tonight with the team.
Oh, great. Okay, so you're wanting the materials, you mean like the handouts, facilitator handout?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, following this training, I'll just send it to the whole group.
Okay, and I put a sample flyer in the chat that people can look at. It's like if you had 3 minutes to talk to Francis, so that notion that Pope Francis wants to hear from you is really helpful as an attention grabber, because it's like, wow. And it hopefully, our struggle is because we ran 2 trial groups, and it doesn't help us to talk about, well, we had a bad experience with Father so-and-so in the neighboring parish, and that's why we came here, and yada, yada. That can't help Pope Francis. So, to get people to what is most urgent and universal is the challenge, because their head is in the weeds. They don't speak church as a first language,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Suzanne. Appreciate that. Anyone else?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, I just had more logistics questions of small groups and facilitators. Do you have a sense of a good size for a small group? If there should be a cap on, because all of my stuff is going to be virtual, so it does feel a little bit different, but I just was curious your insights on that.
I think if you can keep a group to 6, I think that's worked well in the groups that I've participated in. I think at one, I was in one that was maybe 8, but again, it shortens the amount of time that you have to go around. So 6 is about good. And then within that 6, one person would be a facilitator, one person would be a note taker, but both the facilitator and the note taker also participate. So everyone gets to participate, and maybe they go last, but definitely important that they participate as well. Lester?
Yes, I'm going to say that I'm going to wait to see if they contact me back in the parish, because I said if nothing is going on, I may volunteer or do something. But I was thinking about using technologies together with some friends I know that may be interested. So what are some technology you think would be useful? Because, for example, Zoom is kind of very expensive, the subscription for that. But I think when you're using Google Meetings, they allow you for more time. So what would be a good option for good technology options for organizing this meeting? This is more on the training, on the technological aspect. So
Lester, so one advantage of Zoom is that you can do breakout rooms if you need to split people up. I don't know enough about Google Meets to know if you can do breakout rooms. Does anybody know if you can do breakout rooms on Google Meets? If nobody knows that, the other option might be to, since you're talking about gathering friends, then start off small, gather 6 to 10 friends, and that way you can all just stay together and then at least try something that way. But a lot of synod consultations are happening virtually, especially because of the pandemic. A lot of synod consultations have started out that way. So I hope this is helpful, that it is very doable. Okay, Hugh?
I'm looking for questions that reach out to people on the margins, outside the church, interfaith, ecumenical groups, and all the questions I'm seeing have the reference of the church and don't really explore. I mean, I looked at your Discerning Deacons focus questions on women's role in the church, but again, it's kind of the perspective of the church. And I realize that is partly the nature of synodality, but it is not what Pope Francis has called for. So does anyone have questions that they've explored and used?
I would say you should make it up, really. The truthfully, that's what I do. I mean, I think like as long as it's in the spirit of what's inside of it, you just make it up. And so it depends on which group you're talking about, who you're in relationship with. But if it's if it's a group where it's not Catholic, but there's still a belief in the Holy Spirit, maybe it's inside of Christianity, maybe you say, hey, yeah, if you or your church had an interest in advising, the Catholic Church, what wisdom would you share? From either from your own experience, or just sometimes it helps to hear from outside perspective from people. Like, if you we're interested in hearing the wisdom, you could use the word wisdom, from both from people who are inside of the church and also from everyone, because our church believes that God made everyone, and so we're trying to open ourselves up and hear from everyone. But I think like if you're doing something like that, you need to just try to make it simple, and keep it in the spirit of the thing as best you can, and then offer your contribution.
If I can jump in, I can't remember who was asking the question, but we are at the CSC trying to make sure that we're using language that invites everyone in. So I think that's what he's kind of after. So we want to make sure that our sessions are open to people who identify for any part of any day as a woman. And so that's kind of like the language that I'm using when I'm inviting people, is like, I want you to come, I want you to come, I want you to come. I don't care what pronoun you use. So essentially my point is, if you use the language of the community that you're trying to engage, then that will work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's very helpful. And I also want to point out that some great resources and are being offered on chat, and Carolina put a link to how to do breakout rooms on Google Meet. So that's great. Great to know that we can do breakout rooms on Google Meet. Let's see. Jennifer, did you have a question? No? Okay.
I raised my hand so I wouldn't seem like I was just,
Oh, okay. All right. Great. Thank you. One group that's doing a really good job reaching out to folks who are on the margins is New Ways Ministry. They're doing a lot of synod consultations with the LGBTQ community. And I'm actually going to assist with one of those consultations this evening. So I'll take a look at what the questions are, because they seem to be having a lot of success in terms of being able to reach out to that particular constituency. Okay, we have a question here. Has anyone adapted the questions for youth, children, and teens? Does anybody have any wisdom to share for that one? Let's see, Lisa.
I haven't adapted them, but someone else in the animators cohort has. Her name's Martina Miller, and she's out at Carondelet High School in California. And she's a high school teacher, a theology teacher. And so her, it was really good. I just saw it last week. So I wonder, I'm going to ask her if she can just put it on the Slack or some sort of like share out, because she really did a good job of making it a little bit more youth friendly, so to speak. At least I
Sorry,
thought so.
what is her name?
Martina Miller.
Okay, well, Elizabeth Burks is actually at De La Salle, which is an adjoining high school. She's working with our team as well. So I don't know whether they're going to combine forces for this particular venture, but thank you for that.
Yeah. So that would be my recommendation. I'm sorry, I feel like kind of weird if I share it, but because it's not mine. But they've done a lot of good work there, and very quickly.
Lisa, do you think my sense of things is that people are very much sharing questions? There seems to be a great spirit of just sharing questions, learning from each other. So I don't think anybody's trying to.
Okay, great.
Let me proprietary.
Yeah, let me see if I have permission to share it in terms of like on the thing.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Hugh, did you have another question?
Well, I wanted to mention our parish school is doing a discussion with older children, and our youth minister who works with the confirmation classes is also doing, and they've adapted the questions. I haven't seen them, but we can post on Slack. Is that, when I get them, is that the way to share them?
That would be a great way to share it. Slack would be terrific.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a meeting with the high school next week, and I will be printing out all of these things you guys are sharing. Thank you.
And Lisa, we could open up your file. At least I could. So this is terrific.
Yeah, they're doing good work over there. So teachers are getting stuff done, let me tell you.
Carmen, go ahead.
No, just real quick. I posted the Archdiocese of Miami put together very basic questions that are very easy to reword, I feel, and use and reuse. I used them and tweaked them a little bit. I don't think I sent you the tweaked version because I couldn't find it fast enough, but they're quite open and very adaptable. It's only like there's a last two questions have a bunch of questions that I kind of broke down and picked and chose. So that I just included it in the chat so that you're welcome to transform to your needs.
So to kind of, thank you, Carmen, for that. To kind of summarize this part of the conversation in terms of focus questions, the Synod document did give people guidelines, but they also intentionally left it pretty open. Because they do want us, especially the national Catholic organizations, they do want us to reach out to peripheries. They do want us to reach out to people who feel excluded and marginalized. So we have been given quite a bit of latitude to figure out what are the questions that are going to work. And so I want you to feel that you get to try some things here. The ultimate question is this idea of how is the Holy Spirit inviting us to better journey together. So however you might rephrase that for your particular group, but I would say that's one of the questions that's worth trying to get in there, because that one has been identified as like the essential question. We're trying to discern the will of the Holy Spirit for our times, and how are we called to be bridge builders and journey together. So however you might word that for your particular group, that would be a good question to try and get in there. Great. And the other thing about wording the questions the way we would like to word them is that this is all very experience based. So what's the question that's going to allow people to talk about their experience of faith, their experience of church, their experience of belonging, or of something transcendent, something bigger than them? What's going to allow people to talk about their experience? That's the good question. Okay, so I think,
okay.
Yes.
I see Cecilia has her hand raised.
Oh, Cecilia.
So I was thinking we're really heading towards the listening now here in Durham. And so with regards to the questions, they should be framed as how the diocese has framed the question. So that's one of our concerns, because we have to fill out a form for the diocese. So it has to be somehow already related to the bigger structure in the church that we are connecting. But that makes us lose our specificity as a parish, and also we kind of lose control of the information. So how can we comply with all the bureaucracy and the system and the processes within the synodality, but while not losing what we want to speak about and kind of keeping information for us? So what is the right balance there?
That's a great question. I think, well, part of it is you have an invitation to submit a contribution. You have two invitations. So one is through the diocese, one is through Discerning Deacons. Maybe you have three, I don't know, but there's not, so put a question on there that the diocese wants to hear about, and get as much of your report into them as they will take. And then whatever you really want to make sure is not excluded. That's the purpose of the invitation, in addition to what diocese will be submitting to the U.S. Conference of Bishops. Discerning Deacons and other national Catholic organizations are collecting extra contributions to submit to the USCCB in a second way. So what I'm telling people in my consultation is that I will be submitting a local report to our diocese, as well as a report through Discerning Deacons to the U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops. And actually, maybe if we get some exciting stuff and they open up a way to submit stuff directly to the Vatican, we might choose to do that too. So as long as you're closing the loop and connecting whatever it is that you feel that you're a steward of, that you have collected in your consultation, as long as you're closing the loop and reporting those things, maybe to 1, 2, 3 places, that's the best you can do. But I feel like then that way you can balance where you're constricted, where the conversation might feel constricted, you can open it up in another way and participate that way. I hope does that get at your, okay, cool.
Thank you, Lisa.
Sure.
And one other thing I might add is we're organizing now a consultation with young adults, and we felt like some of the Miami questions were too church speak, aimed at very active parishioners. So we were trying to see, could we still ask the same question, but in a different way? Could we reword the question so that it's getting at what the question is trying to get at, but it's more in words that young adults would respond to? So that might be another way of trying to be flexible. Okay, well, this has been great. So I think we're at the point now where we can actually take a 10-minute break. But before you go to your break, I just wanted to promo what we're going to do when we come back, which is we're going to be talking about how do we proposition leaders or people we know and care about and want to join us in this effort. How do we make the most powerful invitation that we can make to have people join us in this effort and to be part of our team? And we're going to be doing some very concrete, just skill building to give you a chance to think about that and make some notes and do some practicing. And you'll also get to hear a live demonstration where Lisa is going to work with Lisa Cataline, and they're going to do a demonstration on practicing inviting somebody into an important role. So let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. And Lester, I'll go ahead and see what was the question you wanted to ask, but let's get back together at 1:25. Thanks, everybody. Lester, did you have a question?
Oh, yes, I was going to say something that the geography, because for example, I was in a Zoom meeting with Santa Monica Parish that is in my same city. But then they said, well, this meeting is just for the parishioner of Santa Monica. So if you are not part of Santa Monica, probably you can look for another listening session. But I was looking at the names here. So many of us live in the same county. At least it looks like Hawk Lake in Long Beach, that is Los Angeles County. There are other people from Los Angeles. So even though we don't live in the same pastoral region, we're living in the same county, kind of very close to each other. So when you get into a lot of bureaucracy, that's a problem with bureaucracy. You need to be in the same pastoral region, you need to be in the same area, but many of us are very close to each other. So when you look at the global church, it is one state or one county, whatever. When you look at the global church, that is almost like nothing or minimum. Because when you think about the global church, we're 1 billion Catholics.
Yes.
So
yeah, it does surprise me to hear you say that particular church decided that their consultation was only open to parishioners, because I don't think everybody's handling it that way. I know of other churches that are very much trying to do more outreach and welcoming whoever wants to participate. So anyway, it's too bad that they were only closing it to parishioners, but I wouldn't give up. And I'm glad you're thinking of organizing your own meeting.
probably I'm misunderstood, but I wonder if there would be the possibility of organizing something with some of us that live here in California or at least in Los Angeles County, because there are a few people from Los Angeles here.
Yes, yes. So that would be a good, are you on Slack, Lester?
No.
Are you using our Slack channel? No, okay. Well, I think it might be good to put that question in the chat and then have people just respond to you if they'd like to, work together. Hey, so welcome back, everyone. So we're going to now do the second part of our training, which is we wanted to do a deeper dive on this whole idea of looking at the synod opportunity as a chance to identify and invite leaders to play a role and to take their own contribution into this process quite seriously. And so one of the key questions for you is, you know, what is my vision for the type of synodal leader that this person could be, as you're making your list of people that you might want to invite in this kind of role? Lisa mentioned at one point that she invited a religious sister who's good at prayer and who also has a great network. You know, there may be people who you've identified as being good at leading small groups. Maybe they already do some of that. And this might be an opportunity to further give them an opportunity to further develop their leadership. Of course, people who, you know, like to write, like to take notes, you know, and then this could allow them to even develop some other skills. So the other thing we want to be able to do as well is imagine having the courage as we organize some of these synodal consultations. Could we invite some clergy or religious or deacons to be a part of it and to come listen? Not necessarily that they're presenting in any way, but that their main role is to listen and to participate in a group. So that's another, you know, are there any people of influence that you would want at your meeting for whom, if they had a positive experience of encounter and listening and discernment, that they might, that some things might shift for them? Bishop Cantu of San Jose, he talked about participating in the synodal process at the Latin American Ecclesial Assembly and how transformational that was for him to actually experience a really good synodal process. And now he's coming much more on board with the whole idea of the synod. So imagine even inviting some of those folks could be transformational for them. So in the world of community organizing, which Lisa and myself and Casey, we all have a background on that, there's a tool that we call the proposition, which is it, and it helps our ability to call forth other people's gifts and skills and leadership. So we're going to be talking about that now. And so let's start if Carolina could share the next slide. Okay, so what is a proposition? So a proposition is a planned and intentional conversation that invites a person into a well-defined activity or role based on some aspect of that person's self-interest or stated passions, dreams, hopes, or struggles. I know the first time, you know, I heard the word self-interest, I thought, oh geez, that word sounds so close to selfish, you know? And so what's the difference between selfishness and self-interest? And so the way I think about that term self-interest is much more, I think about Father Richard Gallen, who once wrote, "The deepest desires of the human heart are divine in origin." The deepest desires of the human heart are divine in origin. So those things that we want for ourselves and our family and our community that are just very deep, that their origin is like from God, that these are things that we're passionate about and committed to, that come from a very deep place. And most people are quite hungry to make a meaningful contribution in their lives and to the world. They want to be engaged in activities that allow them to grow. And so, so part of the proposition is tapping into that. You know, who is this person? What are some of the ways that they're seeking to grow? What's the contribution that they would love to make? What's the thing that they're really committed to and passionate about? And then take it from there. So let's see if the next slide. Okay, so here's the difference between like recruitment. So if you're recruiting somebody, it's like it's task focused. Oh my God, I need somebody who can just sit at this table and write out name tags. You know, I need somebody who can just take notes. And, you know, so it's task focused, person focused. That's a typo. Person focus is on the propositioning side. So more task focused, you're testing their interest. Oh, you know, could I see if this person would be interested in helping me out with this? It's often based on the needs of the project. What do I need to get done for this project? It doesn't necessarily presume any kind of knowledge of the person being invited. And mostly you're just trying to see, how am I going to get this task done? We've all done that. We continue to do that. Sometimes that's what you need to do. But what we're talking about here today is actually something different. The opportunity to proposition somebody into a leadership role is much more person-focused. You're actually thinking about the interests of that person. It does presume that you have a relationship with them, that you've at least met with them once before, preferably one-to-one, so you have a sense of who they are and what they're committed to. And what you're propositioning them to is an ongoing relationship that's going to help develop them as a leader. Okay, so let's see. Next slide. Actually, yeah, okay. So a good proposition would include your own self-interest. So here's where you get to talk about, why am I passionate about synodality? Why does this matter to me that Pope Francis is organizing the largest human consultation ever attempted? And then to say something about what you think their self-interest is, here's why I'm thinking about you, because I noticed that, you organized this thing, or you were participated in this thing, and that you care about this. The proposition should be very specific. Here's the role I'm inviting you to. It might be as a facilitator for the synodal consultation. It might be as a note taker. It might be as the person leading the presentation, the beginning, or the prayer. It's good to think about obstacles. What might be some of the obstacles this person might come up against. They may be very busy. They may have a bunch of kids. They may have 2 jobs, and then to actually have a plan for addressing those obstacles. And then ultimately restating the commitment that you're asking them to consider. So now Lisa is going to actually try this out.
Okay, everyone. I asked Lisa Cataline if I could do a proposition with her in a fishbowl experience ahead of this training, and she is game, and she said yes. So thank you so much, Lisa, for being game. And we're going to work really hard to pretend like you're not all here. And so please don't interrupt us over the next, take the next like 7 or 8 minutes to chat with her. And let's see, what else?
Does anyone have a role, a person they would like me to embody, like a type of person, or you're trying to figure out how to engage? I feel like I've heard a lot about young people on today's. If there's anyone that you want me to embody, I can attempt to do that.
I think for the purpose of this, if you could just embody yourself.
Okay.
But don't
great.
feel like you have to say yes just because everybody's
Okay.
watching.
Great.
So you can say yes, you can say no, anything that comes up in your mind that's like, I don't know, just spit it out. Don't worry about making this easy on me, but also don't necessarily role play. Maybe just be yourself if you wouldn't be willing to. So for the purpose of this demo, I asked Ellie to be a timekeeper and just let me know when there's 1 minute left and when the time is over, and then I'll just kind of wrap it. The wrap might be a little unnatural, but we're doing this for like the purpose of our phone call and for training today. So, just in case it's not obvious, please don't have a timekeeper if you're inviting somebody to do something and you're doing your own proposition. And then I think that's all I need to do to set this up. The only other thing I would say is I have chatted with Lisa on the phone probably 2 or 3 times, one-to-one. So we've got a bit of a working relationship, but not a robust working relationship. So that's just a little bit about us. So I am going to, the other thing is Ellie just gave you a little list of what a good proposition includes. So we're going to debrief after this for all of you watching me. And you can learn from whatever I do well or from whatever mistakes I make. And I'm fine with that. So just keep in mind sort of what a good proposition includes, and you can sort of check me on these things as I do it. See if you so we can have Ellie's going to lead us in a debrief afterwards. Or if any questions come up or whatever, just write them down. Whatever you do, don't don't jump in. Don't try to help me. Okay. I think we're all set up. I did plan this ahead of time a little bit. So I am leading. So Lisa, I'm leading. I've shared with you the invitation, but we're working. I'm working co-sponsoring with the CSJ community, and also recently St. Catherine's is also a co-sponsor of the consultation that's happening here on March 13th, Sunday, March 13th in the afternoon from 2 to 5. And one of the things, one of the things that I am, one of the things I'm inviting people to do is to be like a table host, where they don't have to facilitate, because we'll be in person and there'll be a facilitator from the front of the room, but basically just kind of act as a host and a greeter, and the key responsibilities of a table host would be to get there at 1:30 so that you could greet people. But also it would be to invite people in your network. A table has 6 people at it, including you. And that's a COVID thing. So we can't cram more than 6 people at a table. But what I would be inviting, what I'm hoping I want to invite you into is, that spotlight distracted me, sorry. Thank you. I want to invite you to consider being a table host. And the other role of the table host is considering who you might want to be at a table with, and inviting them, and then tracking who's coming, and then telling them where to meet you. Like, I'll be over here, meet me. I'll have my table reserved. So basically that's the role. The reason it's in my interest is because I'm working to gather as many like influential people who are really, really committed to the Catholic Church, and they serve in the Catholic Church. They love the Catholic Church, but they're not regularly consulted about what they think about where it should go. Particularly, right? Particularly women, although men too, particularly men who are involved in ministries with women, like Marty Roars or somebody like that. And the thing is we have a follow-up meeting with the Archbishop to report to him about what happens at this consultation. So I'm also trying to get influential Catholics in the Twin Cities to participate. They don't have to say what I would say, but just people. I have and I'm interested in inviting you because you are connected to some of the most powerful, at least institutionally, to some of the most powerful women in our archdiocese here through your work with nationally with the Sisters of St. Joseph. And so I think this might be in your interest. Here's why I'm thinking you might be in your interest. I mean, I know it would involve like a trip to the Twin Cities, which is kind of a lot to ask. I know it's like in the middle of your organizing your own consultations. It'd be about 4 weeks before your second one, at least 4 weeks, I think. But the reason I think it might be in your interest is that it's a 3-hour consultation, but 90 minutes of it is spent in small group table time. Actually,
so it's a lot of that. It's a lot of
it's a lot. Yeah, the whole program is focused on setting up the tables to make, and the people at tables to make their contribution as a table, and then to make their contribution as individuals by the end of it.
Okay.
So people are going to go on a journey together, and they're really going to have a deep experience at the table. And I think that so it could be an opportunity for you to have like a common experience with people, powerful CSJs or related, or people that are in positions either at the CSJ university or high school, where you actually have a common experience with them, where they see you as somebody who's like supporting something that they're supporting. But also they'll just get to know you as a person and what you think, and you them. So it would involve a trip to the cities, but you don't have to organize it. I've already organized it. And also there's 2 different CSJs who are on the team who will be presenting from the front of the room.
So people will probably like know them.
They're known. Sister Joan and Sister Carolyn. Do you know them?
I know Joan Mitchell. Yeah.
You know Joan Mitchell. Okay. She's like the linchpin. She's so
good.
She's so good. She's going to say that she's a deacon, and she's going to say that to a room of people, and it's going to be recorded and shared with the Archbishop. And actually Sister Carolyn is going to roughly do the same thing, but she says she's done like deacon-like work, and they are very, very powerful. The other thing about Sister Carolyn is that she works for the Archbishop. She is his, she's the sister who is his liaison to all women and men in religious life.
Okay.
So she gets to like go to staff meeting with the Archbishop all the time. So she's good to know too. And then she and Joan have worked, they've been like in leadership of the CSJs together in the past.
Leadership. Okay.
Yeah, but they're like, yeah, it's not our turn. We've done that before, but they're like, they're major heavy hitters inside of the local CSJ community. Anyway, I think they'd be in your self-interest. And then there'll be a lot of people there. So I guess my invitation for you is to consider being a host. Oh, one more other thing is I could provide you the invitation and the link that I've sent to other people, so you wouldn't have to make it up. But if you were interested in playing that role, that'd be awesome. If you can't, it'd be okay. We have 70 people. It's not like we're like desperate. It's just the more people that we can put in there, the more impact it will have. That's my interest.
Yeah. So as a table host, so I'm definitely down to come as like a participant.
Yay.
I feel a little nervous, just like as someone who doesn't necessarily live in the area, like, but I really care a lot about, the thematic forum, and like the synod process really is energizing me a lot. Is there like a training I need to go to, or like, is it just like be hospitable and kind of welcome people, or I just don't want to bite off more than I can chew.
Yeah, the main thing is asking you if you'd be willing to invite some people that you know, some of your relationships. So the risk is it's like if you could call it a risk, it's not a wild leap, but the risk is emailing people that you know and inviting them to this thing
to participate.
So it's a relational risk. It's not like a whole lot of time. There isn't a training for table hosts, but I could just write up like the 4 thing. It'd be like, show up 30 minutes early, know who's coming, know how many people are actually coming. And then if you've got 3 people coming, we can assign you 2 other people to your table or whatever. So it's just tracking that's the other part of the job. And
what if I don't get 5 other people? What if I get like 2? Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. I think it's up to 5 people for your table. Or if you don't care if they go sit at somebody else's table, you can invite 8 people, So, but it's really the thing I think you'd probably be, if I were you, the thing I'd be the most interested in is having that mutual experience with a set of people that I was interested in deepening my relationship with. And then the other thing that might be interesting is they're going to hopefully be jazzed about the synod after participating. And you might be able to turn around and say, hey, like, I'm doing this next one. Would you want to host, or would you want to invite some people to that? Anyway, That's the invitation.
Lisa, if
So-
you don't mind me interrupting, you've got like a minute left.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So do you think you can make a decision right now? Do you know if you'll be able to come or not? If you want to
I
do
feel like
this?
I feel
Wanna
like I
think
can
about it.
Yes. No, I feel like I can commit to coming. I am able to
Awesome.
register.
Awesome.
I feel like I can commit as a table host. I am feeling less confident about my ability to get a bunch of people there, mostly because I just don't physically like those relationships aren't as strong. But I do feel like
Oh,
I want to
sure.
invite people. Like I feel energized about being like, hey, can you make this?
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just let you know that that is amazing. And
Okay.
the only thing I'm asking is not for you to commit to like get the butts in the seats, but just to commit to inviting them. That's the only invitation.
I can do that then. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great. Oh, thank you so much. I will follow up with you with an email and maybe some suggestions of some people, but feel free to invite whoever.
Great. Oh,
Thank you
yay.
for
I'm so
doing this.
excited.
All right. All right, Lisa. Okay, we're taking off though. We're out of that, taking that hat off. How was that experience for you? You can just be honest.
Sorry, my phone is ringing. It was good. I feel like I was surprised that I felt less hesitation. Like I felt like because we already were in really like I've had conversations with you before, it wasn't awkward, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
And the other thing too is I think sometimes I hesitate asking people to do something like for free, like, this isn't really part of your job description or this isn't part of your regular life, but I didn't feel like pressured to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
But also I felt like I wanted to say yes. Like it, for me, it was like this shift of this is actually in my interest long term to like physically show up in St. Paul 5.5 hours away for like, I'm like making the space and like it does matter. And so I feel like that was a key shift for me, even from coming in this morning. Like I had registered and I was like, I don't know if I should go. So that was a for real experience.
Well, thank you. And the only other thing is like, does this feel different or similar from other things that you've been asked to do?
It feels, I definitely, with the language that you all presented earlier about like task focused versus person focused, I feel like that's really distinct. And unfortunately, I think a lot of the time in my work life, it's a lot of task orientation. So there's not like as much space for the other piece of it. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll get other propositions will not be in a fishbowl.
That's all right. I didn't look at anyone else's faces. I just pretended that I was talking to you. So.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Thanks.
Back over to you, Ellie.
All right, great. Many thanks, Lisa and Lisa. You all did a good job. So, so now I want to debrief with the rest of you and give you a chance to share some things. So, what did you notice about this as you were watching Lisa and Lisa talk? What did you notice? I'll just go ahead and ask you some of the questions like, what did you notice? What did you observe? What did Lisa Amon do well? Is there anything you think she could actually do better next time around? So let's start with those three things. But let's start especially with what did you notice and what did you think she did well? Who wants to start? Carmen, did I see your hand up? And if you could unmute.
Yeah, fine. No, I was applauding earlier for the wrap up of the excellent demonstration. However, I would like to just put in a little bit in that kind of brings in my experience of doing very similar things, as well as what we just observed. Great job, girls. One of the things that I've learned is, and I've seen this modeled that I think would add to what we just witnessed, is bringing up the other person's strengths and gifts in terms of what you're asking. So Lisa C, you know, I know you know the CSJs, do you know so-and-so? Kind of in observing now, maybe throw that in from the get-go. Where sometimes if we lead with the strengths and the network and the connections, that kind of can also help pave, in my experience, again, as someone being asked and as the person asking or proposing in this case, keeping the person, helping to keep the person in the center that way by bringing up their gifts and matching that with the ask.
Great.
If that
Thank you,
helps.
Carmen. Yeah. Anyone else? What did you notice? What do you think Lisa did well? Anything she could do better next time? Who else wants to? Yes, Carmen.
It was, every time you say Carmen, I jump, by the way, I'm not used to feeling. It was like laid back is the way, it didn't feel like a pressured presentation. It wasn't, she didn't hit her with, would you do this? But there was like an unstressed, it was like talking, it was in a conversation, relaxed, whatever, I'm not sure what the word is. But I guess, yeah, I don't know.
I think it was okay for me. I wanted to make sure that she understood that it was okay for me and for the goals of my project if she said no. I feel like that had to be okay with me. Otherwise it'd be too pressured, you know? Anyway, I don't know if that's what you, if that's what you're noticing or not, but that.
Yeah. Okay. So that
I was
maybe
happy she said yes, but it was okay if she said no. It's totally fine, you know?
Great. Jennifer?
Yeah, I definitely, Carmen from Miami and Carmen from Brooklyn both mentioned like the idea of having a rapport, that it was just, it felt very natural. Didn't feel uncomfortable or awkward at all, which I think is really helpful when you're trying to invite somebody to do something for you. The only thing that I would critique, and this is perhaps because I work with young people, it felt really long to me. So like for young people, anything longer than about 2 minutes is too long. So if you're working with college students or young adults, a 7 or 8 minute conversation where you're doing the bulk of the talking is not going to work for them. They will be gone by the time you even finish explaining what you're after. So anything you can do to like trim it down to Twitter size is just going to be a thing that will be, you'll just be more successful. But that's primarily if you're working with youth, if you're working with, you know, middle-aged housewives who might be delighted to be having a conversation with someone over the age of 8. That might be a completely different scenario. So I think it really does depend on what demographic you're working with.
Excellent point. Know your audience.
I think too, just to chime in a little bit on that, I kind of was picturing this conversation happening over the phone. So it felt, I think it felt a little long, like staring at your face in Zoom for 7 minutes. But I think via phone, I would have felt like it was faster, just because I might be like going for a walk or doing something different, you know, kind of like engaging in a different way. So I also think it depends on the medium that you're asking someone, whether it's in person or even like via, I don't know, like, could you do this via text? I don't know. If you have like a relationship with someone, can you text them? Like, so.
I think, okay, Keith. If you could unmute, Keith.
Okay, what I would say is feel free to be excited for yourself first when you're talking to someone else. And I think it goes back to one of the points you said, let's see, share your self-interest as well as what's working for them. And if you can come together on some commonality, you may be working with each other at church or maybe just a friend, but I think coming at it as it'll work for both of us. You know, you're interested in having, we've had discussions in the past about women doing so many things at St. Thomas More. Boy, wouldn't we like them to do more, and just opening it up and just, you know, talking about your self-interest, their self-interest, being a little bit excited, because a little bit of excitement can spread. And I think it should be something fun and engaging for people. Because if she's driving 5 hours, she needs to be a little excited. That's all.
Great, thank you, Keith. Okay, last observation. Anybody else have one last thing they want to share? Okay, so Lisa, one of the things I would share is I thought it was actually quite natural the way you said, so here's how this is in my interest, and you just put it out there. And then when you said, and here's how I think this is in your interest, there was something I found that to be very respectful. Like there's a way that then Lisa knew that you had been thinking about her and you'd been thinking about her, you know, what interests her, and that you had a sense of her. So I thought that was really good. And then the one comment I might make was, at one point, I wasn't quite sure if the ask was really clear. Like you're asking her to fill a table, you know, like, is that really clear to her? But then she asked about that and you all got to clarity. So that was good. So just to wrap up this piece, one of the few things I want to just mention in terms of like top lessons to take away from this is a lot of what you'll be doing in organizing these synod consultations is inviting people to join you in reaching out to their networks. You know, like this whole question of how do we get people interested in coming to a synod consultation? The way we're going to get people interested in coming to a consultation is you have a core team of people who are willing to go out and invite their people. And that one-to-one, whether it's happening by Zoom or by phone or in person, texting maybe with young adults, I'm not sure that would work with other groups, but you know, that one-to-one invitation is how we're going to fill up the rooms that we're trying to fill up. The other thing I wanted to mention is that propositions are ultimately about respect, because you are speaking, you're identifying who you want on your team and how is it in your self-interest for them to be part of your team and how is it in their interest. So you're speaking to somebody's genuine, what you think is their genuine interest. It could turn out that you're wrong about that, but you're at least putting it out there. Hey, here's what I think. If I understand you, here's what I think interests you, and we could work together on this. Another lesson is that propositioning this way is kind of a way of life. It's not just the synodal consultations, but it's ultimately a really good way to just invite people to grow their leadership, a very respectful way to invite people to take a stretch role, to stretch themselves, to try something new. And so you might even think about how you could practice propositioning, not just for the synodal consultations, but in other things that there might even be a way to proposition your kid to clean their room. something to think about. Anyway, the hardest part of it is actually just doing it. I think all of us get a little bit of butterflies when we're going to ask somebody to consider a role, because there is the chance that they'll say no. And then that never feels good. But I think the way Lisa was demonstrating it, you can see that she's saying, I think this might be in your interest. And so you're just it's an honest conversation where you do need to allow the person to say, oh, you know what, thanks for the invite, I can't really take it on. But they might also say yes. And then you've got a really good person on your team who's agreed to take on a leadership responsibility. So don't let the perfection of it be the enemy of the good. The best way to do this is to just do it and to practice doing it. So with that said, we're going to go ahead then and move on to the next piece, which is the proposition worksheet. So I sent that to you all, and hopefully you were able to, you have it up on your computer or you were able to print it. But we're going to take some time to go over this, and then we actually will break out into small groups and you'll get to practice this. So, but I want to take a few minutes to actually just go through it. So the first question is, why is it in my interest to build a synodal consultation team? So you might just want to jot down a few things like, why is this in your interest to not be a lone ranger trying to organize your synod consultation, but to actually have a group of people that you can do this with? And it might be good to just list a couple of ideas about, what if I don't build a team? Then what would be the consequences for me and for what we're trying to do? On the second page is actually a worksheet. And this could help you to actually think through somebody that you might want to proposition. So we'll it would be great for you to think about as you're organizing now, as you're thinking about your synod consultation that you want to organize, is there anybody who comes to mind that you would like to invite into a leadership role? So just take a minute to think about that. And you could go ahead and write that person's name. And then the next question is, have you ever had a one-to-one conversation with that person? You know, if you haven't, then that would be the next step. Maybe it's somebody you admire, somebody you like, but that would actually be the next step, to have a one-to-one conversation, because then you would get to know their self-interest. What's hard is, it's hard to be genuine if you don't have a sense of what their self-interests are. And so then there's a line to mention that if you have had a one-to-one conversation with them, then maybe you could list, here's what I think are this person's self-interests. What are the things are they passionate about, committed to, things they would like to see happen in the world? And then the next piece is, what's your vision for them as a powerful leader? You know, you could just write down a few words. Oh my goodness, I see this person as being able to call forth and invite other people. I see this person as learning the skills of facilitation. What's the particular role that you would like to invite them to? And what are the responsibilities of the role? And then what are you willing to do? You might have seen in the conversation that Lisa had, where she was saying, I can send you a sample invite, I can send you the registration link. You know, there were some certain things she was offering to do to make the job easier. So what's the thing that you could offer them for them to be successful? And then again, there's questions about, I think this particular proposition would be in their self-interest because, and it's in my self-interest because, and to get to write that out. Then the next question is, okay, what are some of the obstacles? What might be some of the things that this person says, you know, what obstacles are they going to face to be able to say yes? And it's good to actually have a couple of ideas in mind. And then maybe your thought about how that obstacle could be addressed. So I'll give you all another 3 minutes just to fill out this sheet, put some notes on it, and then we'll come and then we'll actually put you all into practice sessions. So we'll take another 3 minutes. Okay. So hopefully this has given you a little bit of an opportunity to at least practice filling out one of these sheets and getting a sense of how you might approach one of these conversations. So we're going to go ahead and Carolina is going to put us into breakout rooms, and Lisa is actually going to explain what we're going to do next.
You're just going to get to practice your own propositions now, but instead of propositioning the person that you're in the room with, there'll be three. You're actually going to be kind of like running by somebody an invitation that you want to make to somebody else. So, so what you're going to do, there'll be 3 people in each group, and 2 of you get to practice, and one of you is sort of like a timekeeper and facilitator of the group. And so let's see. You're gonna, I'm just gonna give you some notes on timing. You'll have, you're gonna have 25 minutes overall. So if you split it up into 2, you'll take 12 minutes for each person to practice and get some practice their invitation, their proposition, and get some feedback. And then you'll switch to the next person who will have 12 minutes to practice and get feedback. And then that'll take you to 25 minutes roughly. And then hopefully that'll give you all sort of a chance to see some more practices, to practice some yourself. Anybody have any questions about that? All right. Good luck. We'll see you in 25 minutes. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Woohoo. All right, we're in the home stretch. We just have a few more things here to do, but before we finish out, let me just check in with you. How did it go? Yeah, 2 thumbs up from Joyce, from Carmen. Awesome. Okay. Maybe a couple of you, I'd invite a couple of you to come off of your mute and just like, does this feel like something you could do? Or that you will do? Maybe.
I'll hop in and say, I right after you and Lisa did your practice one, I had a student walk in, and so I kind of like only was listening with half of one ear. But
Yeah.
then she's the student that will be attending our listening session, and so I was like, I wonder if she wants to be a table host.
While you're here.
So I went ahead and was like, so let's just think about how you might be involved in this in a greater way. So and she was like, oh, I can do that. So that happened like during the session.
Cool. That's awesome.
So if you were nervous about this, like, just remember you're a human talking to other humans.
Great. All right, we've got time for 2 more comments.
Joyce
Go
has
ahead.
her hand up.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Yeah, I think Suzanne and I shared a group. I also did Colleen, but we lost Colleen somewhere along the line. But those of us who have white hair begin to realize that we have been doing this all of our life, or all of our ministerial life. And we thank, everybody, all community organizers, and certainly what Ellie put together for us today about this. It gives structure to what we know we've already been doing. And I don't want to, almost credibility in case we need that, in case we need to be credible at any point, that it's a process that we in fact can use. So I already have a team put together, but this is what I did. I mean, unintentionally. I didn't have the sheet and I didn't ask these specific questions and that kind of thing. But there's something, I think there's something those of us involved in ministry know intuitively about how to ask people. And it's, I think it's modeled on Jesus. You know, it's like, that's what he did. That's how he got the 12, and not to mention the women involved, was he met them where they are, not where he was, and asked them to participate in this amazing dream. Who doesn't want to be part of a dream? And if we can bring that kind of excitement and I think not just faithfulness, but some kind of credibility, like we know what we're talking about, you know, and I would say that to all of us is don't hesitate and know what you're asking because you believe in this. You do. God's called you. Trust that. And then go with who you are into the world to recruit 100 million people.
I love it. Okay, Angela, you've got your hand up. Maybe you do. All right. Well, I would just say that I've been doing this same thing. I've been practicing these and trying them out and inviting people into things for about 20 years. And every time, you know, maybe God bless those of you who don't get nervous, but for me, I feel a little bit like I want to throw up every time, like just because I don't know, I just, maybe they'll say no or whatever. So the key is it doesn't have to be perfect. Just do it, you know, just do it and go with it. And we're all people and also just adapt it to fit your needs. Just don't forget that we are inviting people into ministry, like Joyce said, and that they also have a call from God too. So we're not in this alone. Yeah, you're a human talking to other humans. We are all awkward. Amen. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa.
And
I love what
you, thanks to you who stuck around to try that out too. It takes some bravery on a training situation. I appreciate it.
And I want to thank you, Joyce, for bringing Jesus into this, because I think about when he says to a group of fishermen, you know, here you are just fishing all the time and fishing all night, and now I could teach you how to be fishers of men, you know, and he just was totally speaking to you know, meeting them where they're at, but then offering an aspirational vision of the leaders they could become. So it's really interesting that you brought that up. So we wanted to just take a couple of minutes here that we have left to gather the fruits of the day. It would be wonderful to just hear either by chat or out loud, just what you learned. Like, what are you taking away from today? What was helpful? What are you gonna try and put into practice? That helps us as trainers to get to hear from you. Anybody want to share anything? What are you taking from today? What did you gain? What did you learn? What do you want to try? Lester?
Yes, I was going to say that this is one of the biggest events in the Catholic Church since Vatican II. So I'm trying to do my best. I ask the parish, if they don't contact me, I may do a Facebook group with friends trying to do something. So it was good also to do networking because there are many people that are in my same area. They provided useful technologies like Meter, Google Rooms, and things like that may be useful. And it was good, even though in my area, I don't see a lot of things happening. It is good to do this networking with people that are doing great things in their area. So just one person makes a difference. So we need to dream together.
Thank you, Lester. And I am going to introduce you through email to Rosa Bonilla as well, because you may be able to participate in her parish, and they're going to be doing some really good things in the immigrant Latino community. So great. Suzanne.
Yeah, so the notion of asking the people that you recruit to also do networking and engage their networks, you know, bring folks along. It dawned on me, you know, our challenge in some ways as a parish is to reach folks who aren't sitting in the pews. They're not on our, weekly Zoom session that we do, is that we do a town hall meeting once a week, or at least we have had. And I think we need to tell people from the pulpit, we don't know how to reach everybody. We don't know how to get the folks who aren't sitting in the pews to show up. But you know those people. And so enlisting the aid of the average person who actually is in the pews to just get people to come. If their kids are at church, bring their kids. It's like, it's not a big deal. They're part of the body of Christ, and they have the skill set as human beings to invite other folks just to come hang out with us and have conversation, because Francis wants to hear from them.
Great. Thank you, Suzanne. So a couple of announcements. Oh, Joyce. Okay, one last thing. And then
Sorry,
we'll
I'll try to do this
Okay.
quickly. I really appreciated the commentary on the logo. That was truly a blessing to have somebody actually break that open for all of us. I really appreciated on the reporting back that we're reporting universal ideas and not the details.
Yes.
I thought that was really huge, and I loved the approach to kids. I love the questions. I love that people are trying to reach out to so many different kinds of groups.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. So a couple of announcements. Well, first, an invitation. I do want to invite you all to give the proposition worksheet a try, to imagine 1 or 2 or 3 people that you might proposition into a leadership role in the next 2 weeks. See what happens if you kind of take a few minutes to fill out the worksheet and then try out your invitation. And then if you can, it'd be great to either put it on the Synod Animators blog, just how the experience was for you, or on Slack. And then that way we can just support one another as we try out these invitations. And then the other thing is that Lisa and I do have some set times each week in which we can have one-to-one conversations with you. So if your particular question or struggle didn't get answered in this time, I put it in chat, the links to our Calendly calendars, and you're welcome to just find a time that might work for you, and then we'd be happy to meet with you. So with that said, just want to thank everyone again. Thank Carmen for getting us started. Thanks to Lisa for all of her training, to Catalina, who was behind the scenes, to Lisa Cataline for being willing to be part of a demo, and to all of you for participating today and keeping us going. So many thanks, and have a great rest of the day, and we'll stay connected.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice to meet you all. Bye.
Bye.
Peace to all. Bye.
Peace. All right.
So Lisa, do you have time for a moment or two?
I have a couple minutes before I'm supposed to go meet Ellie for an evaluation pretty soon. So what's going on?
I really appreciated the format that you had for registration for people.
Oh, okay.
And, we're doing this kind of half-baked approach that somebody else is handling it. This is not my expertise or whatever, but the notion of being able to automate, as people come in, responses and so forth and so on, and the demographics, because the diocese wants demographics.